Hello guys, it's John from the Body Engineers, and in today's workout I've got a cool little workout that you can do from anywhere. This is just using 2 sets of dumbbells. So we've got a light pair and a slightly heavier pair. So what we're going to do today is we're going to do 4 exercises. One of them is going to be like a unilateral exercise, so you're going to do 1 round for one side and then the other round for the other side. And we're going to do 45 seconds for each exercise. So this is a bit more of this is a full body workout, so it's going to be working both upper and lower body. It's a really good sort of conditioning, particularly anybody that's sort of fairly new to exercise and is looking to get into it. And as I said, it's like a really good way of just moving when you're sitting at home a lot. So the first exercise we're going to do is we're going to do a stationary lunge. So you could do this with dumbbells or without dumbbells, depending on your strength level. So for a stationary lunge, you're going to have a split stance. You're going to have the front leg, the foot's going to be straight ahead, and then you just knee forward a little bit and then slowly dropping down and then driving through the floor to come back up. So we're going to do that for 45 seconds. We're going to follow a specific tempo, which is going to make it a little bit harder, and you want to try and follow that as much as possible. And I'll explain when we're actually going through it, but it's going to be nice and slow down, nice and slow up, keeping tension the whole time. So you're going to do 1 round on one side, and then you're going to switch to the other side and do the other leg. So it'll be the same thing, just switching sides. 45 seconds on that side. Then you're going to get 15 seconds rest after each round, and then we're going to go into an elbows in push-up, which you're going to use dumbbells for. So ideally you have hex dumbbells or push-up handles. And you're going to orientate the dumbbells so that they're front to back like this, because you're going to keep the elbows in. So this is a bit more of a tricep, shoulder, and a little bit of chest type of push-up, different to the one where your elbows are out to the side in this position. So you're going to point them front to back, just going to be shoulder width apart. And then what you're doing with this one, so you could do this from the knees if you find this one challenging. You're going down, squeezing the shoulders together, just making sure that your hand and elbow are in the same line. So as you're going down, that your forearm stays pretty much vertical and doesn't sort of go backwards. What tends to happen with some people is when they're doing this exercise, it's kind of more like that. You see how the forearm bends and the elbow goes backwards too much? That's going to feel pretty horrible on your elbow and wrist. So you want to make sure that you're going forward like this, squeezing the shoulders together and driving back up, and then that'll be a lot more tricep, chest that way. So again, 45 seconds for that one, and that's with doesn't matter which pair of dumbbells you use for that, as long as you can get your hands underneath. And then you're going to grab the lighter pair. Now you might even, if you don't have a lighter pair, you could just use like a tin of baked beans in both hands, or just anything of a similar weight. And then you're going to go back into your hips. So you can have your feet are going to be hip width apart, and then dumbbells or palms facing each other. Slight bend in the elbow, and then you're just out to the side. So it's a bent over lateral raise. So you're focusing on the middle of the back, squeezing at the top, and then slowly back. So this is a good exercise when you don't have any bench or anything for support. It's quite a good back exercise, just training it slightly different to sort of more of a traditional row. Because there's more distance, the arm is more extended, it's going to be a lot harder for the back. So you won't need a very heavy weight for that. For most people, around 5, between sort of 2 to 5 to 7.5 pounds I've got there for that exercise will be enough. So that's the 4 or 3 exercises that we're doing. One of them's 2-sided, so it's going to be 4 rounds total, 45 seconds. With a 15-second rest period in between each exercise. We're going to do 3 rounds, and I've got my timer here, so I'm going to go along with you guys. So are you ready? So in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. So we're starting with a stationary lunge first. So remember, front foot pointing straight ahead, lean back, and then driving through the floor. So if this is easy, then you can use dumbbells to make it more challenging. So you're going ideally with around 4 seconds on the way down. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then driving through the floor to come back up. That's it. We've got just over 15 seconds left. And push. So you're trying to feel this as much as you can in the glute, which if you're doing the right side first, like I am, then you want to really try to focus on pushing your foot into the ground. Good. 15 seconds rest, and then we're going to do the other side. So this workout is a really good workout, particularly if you have any, if some of your joints are a little bit sore, or if you can't do some of the more higher impact exercises. This is a good low impact workout. So then on the other side, you're going to keep the foot straight ahead, lean back, and then you're just keeping the knee. You can go slightly in front of the foot, but you don't want it to go too far because this is more, we're trying to focus more on the hip, so the glute. You really just want the hip going backwards, knee going forward a little bit, that's it. And then driving through the floor to come back up. So we've got 15 seconds, that's it. Slowly down, and then slowly up. Now, if you have trouble with balance with this, you could use something to hold on to. It's always better to hold on to something so you're not focusing on balance, and you can actually focus on filling in the right places. That's it. So that's the end of the stationary lunge. Now you're going to grab your dumbbells or push-up handles, whichever you've got. Go onto your knees. You can use a mat if you need. You're going to orientate them so they're front to back like this, shoulder width apart. So if you find this one difficult, then you can go on the knees, just keeping the elbows in so they're pointing backwards, the elbow pit facing forwards. Squeeze the shoulders together and then drive back up. Now if that's easy, then you can go into a full push-up position, squeeze the shoulders and then drive back up. That's it, slowly down as well. So around 4 seconds on the way down, 2 or 3 on the way up. Keeping the tension to try and keep moving, particularly if it's not too difficult for you. You can make it harder by not resting in the top and bottom. And that's it. So that's the end of the push-ups. So now we're going to put these to the side, and we've got the bent over lateral raise next. So you're going to grab your lighter dumbbell. So I've got 7.5. So you're going to push the hips right back. Keep a nice straight back. Slight bend in the elbow, and then out to the side. Squeeze the shoulders together. Pause, and then slowly back again. Out, hold it. Pause, and slowly back. Just under 30 seconds left. Hold. Make sure that whatever weight you're using with this exercise, that you can actually hold it at the top. This is where you really want to focus on the most. It's where it's the most challenging. It's where you're going to feel it in the right place. Pause. Slowly down. 5 seconds. That's it. And rest. Good job. That's the end of the first round. So we're going back to the stationary lunge. So this time I'm going to make it more harder for myself. I'm going to grab the 15-pound dumbbells, and then we're going starting on the right hand side again. So split stance, foot straight ahead, driving through the floor. So nice and slow on the way down. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then push through the floor. And if you feel like your knee is not feeling so great, you could push the hip out to the side a bit. That might help with reducing the impact on the knee so that your foot flans a bit onto the ground. So drive through the floor, try and feel the glute activating, like you're trying to push the floor away. 5 seconds. Starting to burn a little bit. And rest. Good job. So shake it out a little bit. That might burn a little bit more than the previous one, particularly if you're using more weight. And then we're going to get set up for the next leg. So foot straight ahead. As I said, you can push the hip out to the side a bit if you're feeling it in the knee a little bit. Slowly down and driving through the floor. So lean back. Now if you want to make this really hard, you could just focus on the bottom part, just pulsing at the bottom. And that's where it really starts to burn. 20 seconds. Push, focus on pushing the floor away. 5, and then we're going straight into the push-up. And rest. Shake it out a little bit, and then straight down onto the ground. So with the dumbbells foot facing front to back. So we're going to do it from a different angle just so you can see. Right here, and let's go. So straight up into a full push-up position. Slowly down, try and squeeze the shoulders on the way down. And then drive back up. So down, slowly, squeeze the shoulders. Just as the shoulder blades come together, stop. And then drive back up again. That's it. 20 seconds. Good. Push. That's it, guys. Keep going. It's where it gets hard. It gets hard to keep that tempo, but it's actually important, and particularly for keeping good form. That's it. So back to the bench over lateral raise. You're going to grab the lighter weight this time. In 3 seconds, 2 seconds. So push the hips right back, chest up, slide bend in the elbow, come out to the side, pause at the top, hold it, and then slowly down. Hold. Really trying to feel the mid back in between the shoulder blades. That's it. 20 seconds. And you can change the angle slightly. If you go backwards a bit more, just slightly back a bit more, you might feel it a bit more differently. 5. Keep moving. Try not to rest too much at the bottom. And that's it. So that's the end of the round 2. Good job. So back to the stationary lunge, last round. And then we're going to do another set of exercises. Okay, so let's make this a really good one. So you're going to step right back. We're going to make this a bit harder this time on this side. So we're going to really just pulse to the bottom, pushing through the floor. So don't fully extend the leg. When you extend the leg, all that's really doing is you're just making it easier at the top. So really try to focus on leg pressing the floor away from you. Try and activate the glutes as much as possible. 15 seconds. Really starting to burn. Good. One more. And rest. 45 seconds isn't too bad. So for this kind of length of time, you could use heavier weight. I know I certainly could use more than this. So if you have more, then you could add like a backpack on your back to make it harder. So other leg back now. And then slowly down. Push. So keep the tension on the leg as much as possible. Driving through the floor, 30 seconds. The smoother you try to make the movement, the harder it is. You have to really focus on it, but it really helps with muscle contraction, feeling it more in the places you want to feel it, but it's really hard. Try and make it smooth when it gets really difficult. So same speed, up and down. One more rep. Ooh, that burned. Okay, so then we're going straight down into the push-up again. So same thing, you can do more of a really smooth motion and you'll notice the difference. So shoulder width with the dumbbells, straight up into a plank, squeeze the abs and glutes, elbows straight back, squeeze the shoulders together, and drive up again. Push, that's it. Push. Just remember, don't go lower than when the shoulder blades are together. You don't need to get your nose to the ground. That doesn't make any sense. It's all about trying to feel where your end range is. What's your end range for you, not for somebody else. That's it. Keep your abs tight as well. And that's it. Good job. So last exercise, and then you get a little break. So you're going to grab the lighter weight again. So we're going back to the bent over lateral raise. And let's go. So pause at the top. Again, if you want to make this really hard, then don't go all the way down with your arm, but it makes it substantially harder. You could bend the elbows a bit to make it a bit easier if you have too heavy a weight. That's it, 20 seconds, 15 seconds, pause. 5. Really feel this in the rear deltoids and the mid back. And that's it. All right, good job guys. So that's the end of those exercises. Grab a bit of water, have a little break, and then we're gonna go into the next series of exercises. All right guys, so for the second series of exercises, for the B series, we're going to do a side step. So what you're going to need is if you have a staircase at home, that would be perfect. You could use a chair, and then if that's too high, then you can use something to step down onto. So it could be like some books or anything, whatever you've got at home. But ideally, if you have some sort of like bench or step that you can use, that would be perfect. So for the side step, you're gonna, ideally, like particularly if you have trouble with balance, you wanna really have something to hold on to on one side so that you can really focus on doing it in the right way, feeling it in the right places. That would be the best. And this exercise works similar muscles to the stationary lunge. So you're gonna step on to the top, make sure the foot's pointing straight ahead. You can push the hip out to the side a bit just to flatten the foot a bit as you go down. And then this one you're bringing the knee forward a bit more, hip back, and then just tapping the heel onto the ground, and then you're driving through the floor to come back up. So the main thing with this is you want to really avoid pushing with your foot that touches the ground, like through the floor like that, because that makes it significantly harder. So you want to try and keep the toes up so you can't use your toes to push back up again. So we're going to do that for 45 seconds and then switch to the other side, and then we're going to do the same thing. So 45 seconds on the other side, and then we're going to move to a bicep curl. So you're going to grab whichever weight is going to be good for you, generally probably the heavier weight if you've got 15 pounds or 7.5. So for this exercise, you're going to keep a nice and tall posture. So draw your belly into your spine, palms facing forwards, shoulders back, squeeze the shoulders together. Try and keep the elbows as still as possible with this. Just find the squeeze in the bicep and then hold it at the top and then slowly back down again. You don't need to go all the way down if you don't want to. And then pause at the top, make sure you really squeeze as hard as you can, particularly if you've got a slightly lighter weight than what you could do. You can make it harder by focusing more on the top part. Then you're going to go into a tricep extension. So you're going to lie on a mat if you've got one, or on the floor. And then you're going to point the dumbbells so they're front to back. Elbows pointing forwards like that. So just rotate your arm out and then bend the arms, keeping the elbows completely still. And then just slowly extend right up to the top again. Now, if you have a weight that is too heavy, if the weight you have is too heavy, you could use the lighter weights, or you could do if you have a weight that's too light, then you can do this version instead, where you're doing more of a tricep kickback. So you're just going to extend the arms and then extend the lower arm, extend the forearms. So that's a similar tricep exercise. It's actually different because it focuses more on the extended part, and so it's going to make it harder. So if you have a weight that's a bit too light, then you could do that instead, and that will be harder for the triceps. And then we're going to go for the last exercise into an oblique crunch. So you're going to have your feet flat on the ground, cross the arms, and then what we're doing with this one, you're crunching up a little bit and then bringing your elbow, the opposite elbow to the opposite hip. So you're trying to bring this to here, roughly. Just a crunch and rotate, pause, and then slowly back to the middle, crunch up, and then rotate to the other side. So you're just alternating side to side. Again, if you want to make it harder, you can sort of not rest in between, or you can rest and then regroup and then go to the other side like that. So that's the 4 exercises. Again, there's one exercise which is 2-sided, or you're doing 1 on each side, so it's 5 rounds total, and we're doing 3 sets for each one, so it's going to be 15 rounds, 45 seconds for each, with a 15-second rest period. Okay, so make sure you got the step at a sort of a good height, a challenging height, but not too challenging a height for you. So this one's okay for me. So, and again, you can use dumbbells with this if you want to make it more challenging. So are you guys ready? So 3, 2, 1, and let's go. So we're going to start with the side step. So grab onto something for support. You can bring the opposite arm out in front, keep the knee over the foot, and then you're just driving through the floor. So knee forward, hip back, tap, and then drive up. So 25 seconds. So again, I'm making sure you're not using the foot that touches the ground at all, because that makes it significantly harder. You're going to really have to use your glutes and quads on the other side versus flexing the toes. Now, if your step is just too high, then that's okay. You're going to have to probably use it a bit. And that's it. Okay, so then we're going to switch sides. Got 10 seconds. So again, make sure the foot is pointing straight ahead. Then you can adjust so that your hip position to either arch or flatten the foot so that it feels a bit better on the knee if you have some slight knee problems. And the knee forward, hip back, tap the heel on the ground, and then drive back up. So using for support if you need. One of the things with this one as well is you want to make sure you're not side bending too much as you go down. So if you keep your hip up and it's more knee forward and hip back, and that's kind of how you lower yourself. So for me, that's probably about as low as I can go. To get lower, I have to side bend. Now, if you have a really limited amount of side bend in your spine, that might start to bother you quite a bit. So you've got 5 seconds, so just watch out for that. So knee forward, hip back, tap, and then drive back up again. All right, so then we've got the dumbbell standing bicep curl. So for this, feet are hip width apart, keep them nice and tall, chest up, squeeze the shoulders together, palms facing forwards, and then you're curling up, keeping the elbow really still. Because if you bring the elbows forward like that, it just makes it too easy. You're kind of cheating that way, so keep them back, find that squeeze in between the biceps, or in the biceps, and then slowly back down again. So keep it squeeze hard as possible, chest right up. This is actually quite a good posture exercise if you keep everything in the right place. Sort of rotate, squeeze your abs, draw your belly in. 10 seconds. Squeeze. 5. That's it. And rest. And then we're going straight into the tricep extension. So you can either do the kickback if your weight's too light, or you can do this version. So you can have your feet flat on the ground, elbows pointing forwards, and then bending the arm, elbow straight up. So almost think about touching the top of the dumbbell on the top of your shoulders, but that's going to vary from person to person depending on your arm length. Now you could offset your grip as well so that it's closer to one end, and that will allow for a bit more range in the dumbbells. Sometimes this one cannot feel that great in your elbow because there's a bit too much stress on the elbow at the bottom. If that's the case for you, then do the tricep kickback instead, which I'll show you in the next round. So extend, keep your elbows forward, that's it. And then you're going to put the dumbbells to the side, And then we're gonna go straight into the oblique crunch next. So same position, just cross the arms. And then we're gonna roll forwards and then rotate to one side. Try and bring that elbow to the opposite hip. Squeeze, hold it for a few seconds, and then slowly back again. And then crunch forward and rotate to the other side. Hold, and then back. So roll, pause, rotate, and then back again. So try not to rest at the bottom if you can, if you want to make it harder. If you really need a rest at the bottom, that's okay, but if it's too easy, then you want to not rest. That's it. And make sure you really focus on finding it in range, squeezing as hard as you can. And that is it. So that's the end of the first round. Good job. And then we're going back to the side step. So if the side step was a bit easy for the first round, you could use just one dumbbell. And then hold on to your support with the other hand. That's probably the best way of doing it. You could also use 2 dumbbells if you've got really good balance. So knee forward, hip back, tap the heel, drive through the floor. And again, just make sure that you're not side bending too much. Tap, and then push. Good. That's it. 15 seconds. Quite a bit harder with the extra weight, particularly if you don't use that non-active leg. Really feel it in the glutes and switch sides. So just switch hands with the dumbbell, other foot on the platform. Make sure it's straight ahead, and then just adjust your hip position so that your foot is flanning a bit as you go down. So knee forward, hip back, tap the heel, and drive back up again. Try and keep the non-active leg as straight as possible. Because if you bend like that and then push, then you're using that leg a bit too much, but that can be okay if it's too hard initially. That's it, tap, and drive back up. That's it. Good job. A few more seconds. And rest there. So back to the bicep curl. So nice and tall posture in 5 seconds. So make sure you keep your elbows back, squeeze your shoulders together, and then curl up. Pause. Draw your belly button into your spine. Squeeze your abs. Make sure you don't lean back like this. Keep your hips underneath the shoulder. Pause. Slowly back, 25 seconds. And if you want to make it harder, just do smoother reps. Really pausing at the top. Try and keep the motion as smooth as you can. 10 seconds. 5. And rest. And then the tricep extension. So if the previous version was a bit too easy, then you can do the kickback instead. So for this one, you're extending the shoulder and then extending the arm. And then once you've extended the arm or the shoulder, you keep the elbow still. And then you're just squeezing at the top. Pause, make sure you really pause at the extended position, because that's where it's the hardest. If you don't, then it's probably going to be a bit too easy. Really squeeze as hard as you can, and then slowly back. And if that one is too challenging, then you can go to the supine tricep extension on the floor. So I'll show you again quickly. So extend or bend the arms, elbows straight up, keep them in as well. And then rest there. So then we're going to do the oblique crunch next, last exercise on this round. So feet flat on the ground, cross the arms. So you're rolling up and then rotating slightly to one side. Make sure you don't rotate too much. It's a crunch up initially and rotate, kind of like in one motion, if you can. And then to the other side, really squeeze at the top. It's quite a bit harder than a regular crunch, particularly if you really keep the tempo very controlled. And make sure you're rolling one vertebrae at a time into the floor, and that you're not trying to come up too high, because then you lose tension in the abs and then it becomes more of a hip flexor exercise. So roll, pause, and then rest there. All right, good job. So that's the end of the second round. We've got one more round to go, and then that is it for this workout. So I'm going to use 2 dumbbells this time for the step, and that means I can't use support, which is going to make it a lot harder. So you're having the foot straight ahead. So you want to make sure that you've progressed to this point. So you're just tapping on the floor and then driving up. This is a lot more challenging for the foot, because the foot has to stabilize the whole body. That's it, knee forward, hip back. If your knee is moving side to side too much when you're doing this version without the support, then you should go back to using support so that you keep your knee still in the frontal plane. And then drive back up. And then switch sides. That's it. So the other foot straight ahead. Adjust the hip position. And then push through the platform. Probably find that one side is a bit harder to balance on than the other, and this one is for me. Tap, and then drive back up. Pause, knee forward, hip back. Good. Whoop. Few more seconds. That's it. Last few reps. And that's it. And then we've got the bicep curl, standing bicep curl for the last one on this. So again, nice tall posture. Feet hip width, dumbbells pointing, or the palms facing straight ahead. And then curl up. Pause at the top, really squeeze, keep the elbows back. We're going to pulse a bit more at the top. This weight's a little bit light for me for this. So try, if you have different weights, make sure you're using one that's the right sort of challenge. Hold. Try not to fully go down if you can, because you're kind of resting at the bottom. And also, when you curl from the bottom, it's a bit more stressful on the elbow as well. 5 seconds. And rest there. And then tricep extension. So back onto the mat. So dumbbell straight up. So make sure they're facing front to back, elbows pointing forwards. And then curl down, pause, and drive back up. With this one as well, you could do more of a pulse at the bottom if you want to make it a bit harder, like a quarter rep at the bottom. So they go all the way down, up a quarter, back down, and then all the way up. That's only if the weight's a bit easy for you. Again, if you're getting elbow issues, or if your elbows kind of flare out as you extend, then this is probably not the right exercise for you. You should probably do the tricep extension instead. Sorry, the kickback. So extend, and good job. Okay, so just one more of the body weight oblique crunch, and then that is it for this workout. So feet flat on the ground, cross the arms. So you're just rolling up and rotating and pausing at the top, and then slowly down again. So roll, rotate, pause, roll, pause, and then slowly back. That's it. Good. Few more seconds. Last few reps. That's it, keep going. And you can go a little bit faster, and then that is it.
The Body Engineers.